Joining us this morning on the show, Dean Norris. Dean, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
Doing great, bud. Thanks so much for joining us. You are a South Bend product. You went to high school in South Bend as well. You are a noted Notre Dame fan. What's the earliest Fighting Irish memory that you have growing up around that school?
Oh, man, so many. Certainly I remember, every Saturday was like it was a holiday in football season. You know, you'd wake up and I'd get with my friends and we would walk, or my parents would drop us off at the stadium and we'd just walk around. And fall weather, and eventually somebody would give us a ticket and we'd get in at halftime and watch the games, and it was just fantastic. You wake up on a Sunday and there'd be like a 5-page spread in the newspaper, color photos of the game. And I loved just going through that, you know. So it was every weekend in football season was just a great memory for me growing up.
Excellent.
The host would like you to unmute your microphone.
So it's interesting
you can
because
press *6 to unmute. The host would like you to unmute your microphone.
Let's see if we can maybe get the operator to stop interrupting our really good conversation about Notre Dame football here, because that's much more important than pressing 6 for muting. Now, can you hear me again here, Dean? Okay, we're going to hang on here for a second because it seems like that teleconference might have interrupted our conversation. The automated operator voice. We got cut off. No Notre Dame talk here. Okay. Apparently the automated service is just as upset about Notre Dame being invited to the college football playoff last year. It's funny that we had this come up for Dean to join us because, you know, Bogish and Mraz have encouraged me to dive into Breaking Bad, and I've just now done this over the last couple of months. So this is very exciting for me because I am still in the process of watching the final 2 seasons of Breaking Bad. So to have Dean scheduled to join us because he's part of a new sitcom was a pretty cool thing, because I'm watching him basically every night and being like, oh, yeah, we're going to have him on the show. So it's pretty wild. And then the automated operator has to step in and ruin everything. And so now I don't know if we're going to have Dean even join us again. This is potentially quite an issue here, Mraz.
Stand by. Please unmute your microphone, I believe is what the operator was shouting. Who was she talking to? Was it us? Was it Dean? I have no idea, but I'm sure it's not playing well back at Mission Control with Pete Bellotti frantically trying to get him up, though. That's for sure.
What I will say is that Breaking Bad it is known because of its cliffhangers, its ominous undertones. You think something bad is going to happen. You don't quite know how it fits yet, but you know that it's there for a reason. And having our interview with Dean Norris cut short because of the automated operator saying, please mute your microphone, and now it all goes to hell in a handbasket, feels very Breaking Bad-ish. Like, what does this mean?
It does. Breaking Bad, I told you numerous times, I thought it was great on great cliffhangers, and the cliffhanger of what just happened with Dean, frankly, has me on my edge of my chair.
Yeah. What does this mean? Will he join us again? Will time run out? Because he was on a very finite amount of time for us during this radio tour. I think we only had him for 8 minutes, and now 6 of the 8 minutes have expired. Do we get him on the back end?
I don't think we get him.
Is that it? Was that the only question I get with Dean Norris?
I think so, because I just tried to get back on the call, and they're on another interview.
Oh, no.
What?
No, they've already moved on. I didn't even get my 2 minutes with him.
It's horrible. Whatever the setup was, they got to do another setup next time.
What?
We didn't even get a chance to talk about his new sitcom, United States of Al. That's the whole reason he was coming on.
Oh, I already forgot. I thought it was Bob Abishola, too. It's United States of Al.
No, it's not Bob Loves Abishola.
Billy Gardell.
That's Billy Gardell from Mike and Molly.
Oh.
Well, I had so many good questions to ask Dean, and now I wonder, should I tell you the questions I was going to ask, or should I hold them in case we have him on again?
I would ask the questions.
To who? You?
So in other words, Pete has no confidence that we're getting him back.
I have zero. No,
we don't even know
no
Pete's
chance
dialing him back, or Pete just ripped the phone out of the wall. He's stuck.
Wait, Can Pete pot up the other conversation? Is that illegal?
I don't think I'm allowed to do that. It might be with a competitor, too.
So, Pete, you called the same number again, and what happened when you got through?
Well, you have to dial in all these codes, and then once you get in, they say your line is muted, just like you heard previous. And I got on, and he's in an Ohtani conversation with somebody else.
He's talking Shohei Ohtani?
Yeah.
What?
The hell's going on here? I didn't know I could ask Dean Norris about Shohei Ohtani.
I tried interrupting.
You went to Notre Dame too?
Nothing.
I think Adam Rank was doing the next interview. I think that's what happened here.
Is Ohtani the star of a new Paramount Plus streaming sitcom?
So if I had to guess, my guess would be that CBS PR has tried a new way to do this because I've booked guests through them before where it's like this Zoom conference on in and out, and the next interview probably called in during ours. Then we got booted and hung up, so he picked up that one that dialed in. And when they dialed in, that's probably who the operator was talking to, and thus a very unorganized mess.
So you think, but the operator was automated. That wasn't
right.
A live operator. You think that the next radio station was calling in to get on hold, and because of that, the automated operator was telling that person to put their phone on mute.
Put on mute, and then we heard that. We got out, hung up to redial, and at that point, CBS had a show dialed in, didn't realize or wasn't hearing it on their end, and now has him talking Ohtani with that
So
show.
we got hijacked? We got hijacked by a show in Anaheim that wants to talk to Dean Norris?
I agree with that. That's exactly how it sounded when I called.
I sent an email because we have a very good relationship with the people who you're dealing with here. By the way, we are the national entity of CBS on the radio end of things. You would think this was a very big spot for Dean Norris. To be talking Ohtani with somebody else as we're trying to talk Lou Holtz is a little bit of a problem.
Well,
I feel like this is my fault partially for poo-pooing network comedy. Someone heard that, and this is how they sabotaged us. So
karmically, we did not do ourselves any favors earlier in the show by destroying sitcoms, network sitcoms.
I think he's a big Jack Hay fan, too.
I also booked this last week. Was so excited. DA's watching Breaking Bad. We're going to get Hank on for Breaking Bad. I mean, let's face it. This was my crown jewel guest booking of the week, and we got one Notre Dame question in.
Is this basically the new Art Garfunkel that happened to us here? A potential great interview short-circuited by bad luck?
Art was less bad luck and more an attitude problem on his end. Dean seemed like a nice guy. He was ready to chat up a storm.
Yeah, I know. He had good energy. Okay, what I was going to ask him was, one of the things that has struck me about watching Breaking Bad is how brilliant the writing and the acting is. Both of those things make it such a stalwart hallmark type of show. It is why it's one of the greatest TV shows ever, very obviously. And I thank you both for encouraging me to watch this because I'm kind of like just constantly admiring how good the acting is and how great the writing is right from the opening episode. And I was going to ask, could you have known when you got the original scripts from Vince Gilligan, like, oh, this is a different level of TV? Or does that only come once you start all getting together as actors and you're like, oh, he's really good, she's really good, that really works. Oh, that's how they wrote this in. I kind of wonder if you get the first script and you're like, oh, this is just elite, or does that come over time? I wonder, you know?
Well, DA, I'd worked with Bryan Cranston and knew he was a good actor. And, I had the sense that this show could be a little something, but never in my wildest dreams did I know anything about Aaron Paul and had this show would really take off and really the cult following it had. But the writers, everybody worked really hard. I think that would be the answer, something like that.
Honestly, my other question was going to actually have a Mraz hook. And the hook is Dean Norris has an iconic Buddha belly. His belly is amazing, is it not? I mean, it's one of those round boilers that looks firm. It's almost muscular. And I watched promos and segments of the new show, and it's gotten bigger since Breaking Bad. So he has grown the Buddha belly. And I was going to say, how do you keep the Buddha belly in shape? You know, how do you make sure that you don't lose it? Because to me, Mraz, yours is kind of just like overeating. But that's a very firm, round, mountainous Buddha belly. It's a Hall of Fame Buddha belly. How do you keep it in shape?
All right, well, that's a two-part answer. My first answer to that, DA, is going to be, thank goodness the interview got cut short and Dean Norris didn't have to be faced with that question. Number two, mine is not, you act like you take it off and you can slap mine around like it's like pink canvas. When you get to the point. Can you
not?
To an extent. I do a lot of crunches, all right? You haven't seen my belly naked in a long time. But
no, we have, unfortunately, because you like to change your shirt right in front of the camera like once a month.
Yeah,
We've definitely seen it recently.
Regularly on Zoom.
In person. Forget about Zoom. When you overeat or maybe sometimes get that beer keg belly going on, it comes to the point where there's no more room for growth in the skin, that it becomes a tight situation. Now, yes, some people droop and it ends up being a stomach that gets kicked up by your knees, and you walk around and you prance around the house. Oh, my knee is kicking my stomach. But a lot of people just get a firm grasp on it. I used to work with Chris Carlin. Chris Carlin has that hard boiler as well. I used to notice you just do a keep slight tug. It just fits so. There's not really an answer to it other than just science on different people. Fits just so.
I don't know. My grandfather had one of those, and he used to be jacked, like a Marine. Like, he was in all sorts of shapes. So it was almost just like he got fat underneath his muscle. Like, you could almost it's like you could have popped that thing like it was a balloon. It was not loose and sagging like some other people's are. So I think maybe like where you start from maybe affects the way it looks when it's a full-on boiler.
And it should be noted that DA had a week to prepare, and his 3 questions were, let me ask you about Notre Dame, let me ask you about the writing, and could you foresee this in Breaking Bad, and how you keep your Buddha belly in shape. That was the big 3 questions.
I also had a United States of Al question to make sure that agents were happy. Never got to that. What would you rather have, Mraz? Would you rather have your flabby, saggy belly or his rock hard boiler?
My flabby, saggy, because I'm skinnier. When you get that rock hard boiler, it's just too much. You're fatter. Like, no offense to Dean Norris, he's fatter than me. I would rather be less fat, and if that means I droop a little more, maybe my moob takes a left-hand curve into my armpit, I understand that, and that's some of the stuff I'm going to have to deal with. But ultimately, it's still less mass, and less mass is better.
It's like
I don't even know if that's true or not. I don't want to dissect it any further, but I don't know if that's even a correct assessment of the two of your bodies.
I just like the idea that it's essentially like signing a bad contract. It's something I'm going to have to deal with. Okay, salary cap ramifications. My move's taking a left turn. It's like
sure.
Giving Frank Kaminsky a 3rd year. You just don't want to do it, but I had to do it.
Look, there's room for me to get fatter and thus my skin get tighter and get a rock-hard belly is what I'm telling you. There ain't much more room for Dean Norris to get fatter. It's just there. Like, it's there. It's there. I mean, the skin is tightened.
So you think if you get fatter that your stomach will get, like, more inflated and tighter? It will not go further south? Is that what your thought is here?
I mean, it's a good question.
Further south.
When you watch,
both literally and figuratively. Will it sag literally to the ground, and will it become more and more doomed health-wise?
I don't know, because everybody's body's different. When you watch my 600-pound life, like I said, there are those people who are fatter than a Dean Norris that don't have their stomachs tightened. Instead, like I said, low-hanging fruit is the best way to put it. It hangs down. It's all over the place. It's like a bad slip and slide of a body. It's disgusting. So, I don't know. Maybe I would go down that way, where basically your thighs would go over your kneecaps. Maybe that is something that would happen to me. I don't know.
I always wondered if the Buddha belly, the hard boiler, was just a beer boiler. That for some reason, all the beer just ends up as like your own little pony keg there underneath your shirt.
Maybe. By the way, I
but
just
you
got
drink
an email.
A lot of beer.
I got an email back from Dean Norris's people. Do you care to hear?
Yeah, share it, of course.
Okay, this is the email in real time. We're in this. We were waiting for you to call back. Then another show called in. Not sure what happened. All of a sudden, we couldn't hear you.
That's their fault.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like that's on our end.
All of a sudden, we couldn't hear you. No, he could hear me just fine. We were talking about Notre Dame football.
Right.
He heard the question. He was answering the question. I was going into the next question, And then the automated operator started talking over us, which is why we potted it down. That's why Pete then hung up and redialed.
Right. We didn't have the operator. We don't have an operator on our end. Unless Kaplan's pumping automation through. That wasn't on our end.
They don't have a show called every 2 minutes. That's another thing.
Fair. Perhaps
I love
they could have
that
slotted
Pete's
in
the
things
angriest.
differently. But they have acknowledged that the interview
Ridiculous.
was cut short. That's the bottom line.
By the way, Pete, are you also wearing the black rim glasses from our new company, Odyssey?
Yes, I just got them
Wow.
yesterday. They're actually
But there's
pretty
no
good.
lights in your studio.
Got about 15 computers to look at, so at least my eyes will be a little bit healthy.
They're blue light glasses that you guys now, both Mraz and Bellotti, are wearing them. Well, let me tell you guys, Bart Scott will never be able to tell you guys apart now.
He does look like me as I look at it right now.
I could have a name tag on my chest and Bart wouldn't be able to tell me.
One of the great moments in CBS Sports history is after Mraz got married, Bart congratulated Pete.
No. After Pete got married, Bart congratulated somebody that shall not be named.
Talk about bellies.
Which is even more offensive than confusing me and Pete.
Happy New Year to me, that was.
I believe it was a boss that went up to Pete and thought he was me. I believe that was what happened, if I remember correctly.
Oh, that was good, too.
Yeah.
It was one of our employers, one of our bosses that thought you guys were the same guy.
Right. Went up to Pete to mention a question about me, thinking it was me.
Really felt appreciated after that.
So now you guys are both wearing the glasses.
Given to us by our company and our bosses to protect our eyes.
Thank you,
Whereas
Odyssey.
If I see you on Zoom tomorrow in a Mets hoodie, I'm going to know something really has gone wrong here.
Gave up the bet.
They're melding into one another.
That's what the pandemic will do to you. We become each other.
Oh, man. Well, I wanted to talk to Dean Norris, but I think the segment actually became better by Dean Norris not being on the show. This is a good
That's
segment.
the second time, right? Was that the was who bailed? Oh, Wingo, right? And you're like, this was better anyway.
Oh, yeah, right. Trey Winkle bailed at us. That's right. And then the segment ended up being way better without him. So
Check out United States of Al.
yeah, check out Paramount Plus.